Helen Mary. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Can everyone see that? Yes, awesome. So a
Yeah.
little bit about me. I'm originally from Jackson, Mississippi. And for undergrad, I went to Ole Miss, and now I'm here at UAB completing my dietetic internship and getting my master's in nutrition sciences. So I actually just finished my rotations last week, and I have one more semester of grad school classes left, and I will graduate in August. So I have about 5 years of knowledge to share with y'all, and education and experience from rotations. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get started. So we're going to talk about fueling for a busy day on the go. So I'm sure just like a lot of y'all, I usually have so many days where I'm on the go. I'm doing so many different things. I'm hopping around from place to place. And it's really important to remember to eat and to fuel yourself so you can get through those busy days. So we will start off by going over a little bit about nutrition basics, just reviewing different things, especially if you don't have much nutrition background. We'll kind of review that. And then I'll give my planning tips, meal prepping tips, and lastly, grocery shopping tips. So to go ahead and get started with nutrition basics, I'm sure everyone has probably seen this image over here. This is the MyPlate image. And it just basically gives you an overview about how to build a healthy meal and how to build that plate. And so MyPlate says to build half of your plate as fruits and vegetables, a quarter of your plate protein, and about a quarter of your plate grains and dairy as well. And we typically say with grains, for half of your grains to be whole grain, just to get that added fiber and those added nutrients from those whole grains. So that is the basic overview of MyPlate, and just a little bit of basic nutrition tips. It's all about balance. So don't restrict yourself. If you want the candy bar, don't restrict yourself because that restriction can lead to binging. So it's just all about balance and moderation. So keep that in mind as well. Don't skip meals, especially on those busy days. Skipping meals can lead to fatigue, drained energy. It'll be harder to get through those days. So always keep a snack on you, that sort of thing. So don't skip a meal. And then we typically say eat every 3 to 4 hours. That will just help to keep your energy level stable. And I'll kind of go over that in more detail in a few slides. But if you can't make it from breakfast or lunch to dinner in 3 to 4 hours, don't be afraid to add a snack in there as well. And we'll go over to how to build a healthy and balanced snack to get you through. So I'm going to start off by going over the basics of our macronutrients. So we have 3 macronutrients: carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. So first off, we have carbohydrates. So what foods are considered carbs? Well, any kind of grains, so breads, noodles, pasta, crackers, cereals, rice. Fruits are considered carbohydrates. Any dairy products, milk, cheese, yogurt, that all has carbohydrates in it. Legumes have carbohydrates in it, so dried beans, lentils, peas, those sort of things. Any kind of sweets like cakes, cookies, candy, other desserts, and even starchy vegetables such as potatoes, corn, and peas. That all has carbohydrates in it as well. And so why do we need carbohydrates? So carbohydrates are our body's main source of energy. Once carbohydrates get broken down into the body, it becomes glucose, and that is what our bodies use to fuel the energy. It is also protein sparing. So what do I mean by that? I mean that if we don't have enough carbohydrates in our body for our body to pull from and use that as energy, it's going to start using protein as energy, and it's going to hold on or pull from that protein from that muscle to produce energy from our body. And that is something we don't want because that will lead to protein wasting. And so that is why carbohydrate is protein sparing. So it spares that protein so our body can use the carbohydrates for energy. It promotes good bowel movement and healthy guts. So that fiber in the carbohydrates we know promotes good bacteria, and that it feeds that good bacteria in our gut. It is our brain's preferred source of energy. And so a fun fact I usually love to throw out there when I'm talking about carbohydrates is our brain and our red blood cells need a minimum of 130 grams of carbohydrates a day to function. So we need at least that minimum of 130 grams of carbohydrates a day just so our brain and our red blood cells can function and work. And then also carbohydrates have a lot of B vitamins in it. So that's where we can get the majority of those B vitamins is from the grains and that sort of thing. So moving on, we are going to talk about protein. So what foods are considered protein? Seafood, meat, poultry, eggs, even beans, peas, and lentils also have protein in it. Nuts have protein in it, seeds, soy products, and dairy, such as milk, yogurt, and cheese, that all has protein in it. So why do we need protein? Protein is the building block for many different things in our body. So it's found in muscle, it's found in bones, skin, hair, tissues, it's found everywhere. And we need that protein to build those things. And so protein is made from these molecules called amino acids. And there are actually 9 amino acids that our body cannot make, which means we have to get these 9 amino acids from food. So this is why those amino acids are called essential amino acids, because it's essential for us to get them from our diet. And so not every single protein has all 9 essential amino acids in them. So if it does have all 9 essential amino acids in it, that protein is called a complete protein. So some examples of complete proteins are fish, beef, poultry, eggs, dairy, soy, and quinoa. So it's usually animal products are the ones that have the complete proteins in them. So it has all 9 essential amino acids, but of course, there's other things like quinoa that also are considered complete proteins. So this is why it's important to also incorporate those foods in throughout your diet so you are getting all 9 essential amino acids. So moving on, our last macronutrient, we are going to talk a little bit about fats. So what foods are considered fats? Olive, peanut, and canola oils have fat in them. Avocados, nuts, such as almonds, hazelnuts, peanuts, and pecans, seeds, so pumpkin and sesame seeds, that sort of thing. So why do we need fat? Fat is really important. It's important in growth and development. It gives us energy when we don't have enough carbohydrates to pull from. We also use that fat to produce energy. It's used as a long-lasting fuel source for low-intensity exercise. It helps certain vitamins absorb in your body. So there's certain fat-soluble vitamins that can only be absorbed in your body with fat, and so it helps with that. Fat is a structure in our cell membranes, so it helps to maintain those cell membranes in our body, the different cells and the different tissues throughout our body. It cushions and protects those organs. And then we have unsaturated and saturated fat. So I'm sure everyone has heard the difference between unsaturated and saturated fats. So unsaturated fats can be things like plant fats, so olive oils, canola oil, avocados, nuts, seeds, that sort of thing. And then saturated fats are typically found in things like butter. It can be found in beef and red meats and those sort of things. And we typically say try to increase the amount of unsaturated fat because that will lead to an increase in that good cholesterol, and that is what we want to help lower those cholesterol levels, is that good cholesterol from the unsaturated fats. And then additionally, just like we have essential amino acids, we also have 2 essential fatty acids that our body cannot make. And those are omega-6 fatty acids and omega-3 fatty acids. And so it's important that we are getting enough fats in our diets, so such as the olive oil or the avocados or the nuts or the seeds, so that we can get those essential fatty acids. And then lastly, I want to talk about hydration. So hydration is so important on a busy day, especially if it's the middle of the summer and it is hot outside. The human adult is actually made up to 60% water. And so when we don't have enough, some complications can happen. It could lead to UTIs, kidney stones, heat cramps, heat exhaustion, or heat strokes, that sort of thing. And if you're ever feeling dehydrated, you might feel fatigued or dizzy. You might feel a little confused. And so those are just a few symptoms of dehydration. And then as far as recommended water intake, the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics recommends that men drink about 13 cups of water a day and that women drink about 9 cups of water a day. So it's really important to make sure you're getting in that water. And so I want to go over a few tips on how to increase that, especially on a busy day. So always keep it with you. So in a water bottle, a glass, whatever, add a straw. I know Stanley cups are very popular, and I think it's because it's always there. It has a handle you can just carry with you, and it has a straw. So it's just very easy to drink from, and make sure you're getting all the water you need. Adding flavorings. So I know that there are many different brands out there that have the flavorings you can add, like Crystal Light. I can't remember the name of one of them, but I think it's True something, that's really good. So, just adding those flavorings if you don't really prefer water, adding something in there to make you drink it more. And then actually fat-free milk and some dairy products have some water content in it too. So if you are drinking milk, you can count that towards your fluid intake for the day. And then something I think no one really thinks about either is that you are eating water in your food throughout the day. I know that sounds really weird, eating water, but there are certain foods that have a high percentage of water that can count towards our water intake for the day. So some of those foods are cucumbers, tomatoes, apples, celery, lettuce, peaches, zucchini, and watermelon. So all those foods are contributing to your water intake for the day. And then quickly before I get into my tips and tricks and everything, I wanted to talk about building snacks. So it's really important, and you can also apply this to meals too. You don't have to just apply this to snacks, but it's really important that you are strategically building these things to make sure that your energy levels and your blood sugar levels are remaining stable throughout the day. So by doing these things that I'm about to tell you, you can prevent those crashes that you might feel if you're just, for example, eating carbohydrates or just eating one thing. So I don't know if any of y'all have ever seen this example over here called the blood sugar rocket. So this is something that a lot of my preceptors would use, especially in diabetes educations, because it's an example of what the foods we eat, how that can affect our blood sugar. So it says over here, think of your blood sugar like a rocket. The foods you eat will tell your rocket what direction to travel, and the amount you eat will tell the rocket how far to go. So with that being said, if the rocket is going up, it's going to come back down really quickly, and we're going to crash. But if it's going at a steady pace this way, our energy levels are going to remain steady. And then you want to make sure you're eating enough and you're getting enough nutrients so that that rocket can keep going. So starting over here, just by having carbohydrates by themselves with no fiber, just simple carbohydrates, our rockets are going to go up. So we're going to come down and crash pretty quickly. But if you add carbohydrates with fiber in it, then our rockets are kind of going to go this way, and it might crash eventually. Adding protein, you're kind of getting to a closer level. Adding fats, you're getting to more of a horizontal level. And then also adding low carb vegetables to get you at that stable blood sugar level. So basically what I want you to take away from this is that pairing carbohydrates such as a banana or maybe an apple with a fat or protein such as peanut butter, that's what's going to keep you energized throughout your day, and that's what's also going to keep you fuller for longer. So when picking a snack, I want you to pick at least 2 food groups, so a carbohydrate and then some sort of a fat or some sort of a protein, and pair that together. because that is what's going to get you to the next meal. That's what's going to get you through your long day and get you through everything you need to do. And then some snacks have multiple food groups in it. So you might have noticed when I was going over the different types of macronutrients, but dairy has protein and carbohydrates in it. So yogurt, that sort of thing. Nuts has fat and protein in it. So some foods have multiple food groups in it too. So moving on to my planning tips for how to fuel yourself for a busy day. The number one key to being able to fuel yourself is planning. I know that sounds so simple, but it sometimes can be a really hard task. But if you can plan, then you will be able to fuel yourself and eat healthy throughout that busy day. So let's get into some of my tips and tricks. The first thing is just get into the habit of planning. I pick a day, mine is always Sunday because that's the beginning of the week, and I sit down and I plan things out. So I look at my week, I just figure out what days I'm going to be busy, what days I'm going to be on the go, all those sorts of things. And I plan that out. And then that's when I plan my meals and my grocery list out, looking alongside what I'll be doing for the week. And then I even go as far as planning when I'll be meal prepping, when I'm going to be cooking. Sometimes I cook half on Sunday, sometimes I cook half of it on the next day on Monday night too. So I add all of these things to my schedule and write it down. So that definitely helps to be able to write it down and put it into your planner and put it into your schedule. And so figuring out what days you're cooking on. So if you know Monday is going to be a hectic day, make sure you're planning on Saturday or Sunday to go to the grocery store and to meal prep and to get ready for the week. Or maybe Monday's pretty slow and Tuesday, Thursday, Wednesday are pretty busy. So plan for Monday to be your cooking day. Whatever it is, just make sure you are planning out your days. And then plan on your busy day. So I want you to consider a few things when you have those busy days. So making sure you have an easy breakfast that you can just grab when it is really busy. So for example, sometimes I'll just grab a yogurt, or I'll make overnight oats before the night before. Or one of my favorite things to do that I think is really easy is to buy protein waffles. And I'll make a protein waffle peanut butter sandwich and just put the peanut butter in between. And that keeps me full until my next snack. Plan to eat every 3 to 4
Okay,
hours.
yeah, I am.
And add the
Got
snacks
point 3.
3 to 4 hours as well. Lunches and dinners, making sure you are planning those lunches and dinners, you're meal prepping, something easy that you can just grab. And then again, building those snacks and meals with multiple food groups, just like we talked about. So having that carbohydrate and pairing it with a protein or a fat for your snacks, and then aiming for all 3 food groups for meals, so lunch, dinners, and breakfast. So it will keep you full and stabilize those energy levels. And then something else that I think is really important on a busy day. Sometimes you can forget to eat, and sometimes I'm guilty of that. Sometimes I forget to eat when it's a very, very busy day. But something that helps me is to always, whether I'm at work or I'm just on the go or I'm at home and it's busy, I always plan a snack or a meal that I love and that I'm going to look forward to eating. And this is because food is naturally a primal drive for humans. So what do I mean by primal drive? So back in the day, when hunters and gatherers were a thing, that's what they were doing all day, every day, is they were hunting for food, gathering for food. So food wasn't readily available to them like it is for us today. And so food was a primal drive for them. It's something that their bodies wanted. Food tasted good so that their bodies could get them to eat. So that is what I mean by primal drive. So you're wanting something that is good and tastes good and that you'll look forward to so that your body is trying to get you to eat. And so something else to go along with that too is I love to keep a list of new meals or new recipes to try and also to cook. This kind of gets me excited. It makes me look forward to planning my meals out and planning going to the grocery store because I'm excited to try and cook that new recipe or try that new food or try that new meal. So that is something else that, if you're not already doing, could be something good to add to get you excited for that. So what if you forget to plan? And trust me, I am also guilty of this. Sometimes I have those crazy weekends where I just cannot sit down on a Sunday and plan out my week. And life just gets crazy. And that is okay. So that is why I suggest to always have a list of go-tos in your house. Even in your car, your desk at work, your work fridge, everywhere, have a list of go-tos. And so what I mean by go-tos is things like yogurt that you could always have in your fridge at home or at work. Trail mix. I have a thing of trail mix and granola bars in my car for those days where I just can't sit down and eat, but I need to and I'm on the go. Having those things in your desk at work, always have a list of your go-to snacks that you can pull from. Another good tip too is to keep frozen meals or food in the freezer. So I always have a Trader Joe's frozen meal in my freezer, at least one, if not more, for those days where I just cannot cook or whatever it is, and I can just pull that out of the freezer and heat that up. And then also, when you're out on the go, you're driving around, you're running errands, you're doing whatever, it's okay to go eat at a restaurant, eat at a fast food place, whatever it is. But, also keeping in mind choosing the foods that it's going to fuel your day and give you the energy to be able to do the things you need to do. So keeping in mind those food groups that we talked about and choosing all three that gives you energy and keeping it balanced too. So I wanted to give you all some examples of snacks to keep on hand in case you can't think of any right now. Some of my favorites is, of course, yogurt, like I mentioned. It's really good with M&Ms if you have that sweet tooth, or I love to combine peanut butter with it and put some fruit in it too. That peanut butter gives some added proteins and fats. Cheese and nuts is another one of my go-tos. I think that, they have those little snack packs at the grocery store where half the side is some sort of cheese and then the other half is nuts and dried fruits and that sort of thing. Apples and peanut butter, that's really easy to just keep on hand. Apples have a long shelf life. Hummus and carrots or crackers. Trail mix, great to keep in the car. Unless it has chocolate, then that might melt, but trail mix without chocolate won't melt. Popcorn is an awesome snack that has a lot of fiber in it, and pairing it with cheese or nuts would be great. Peanut butter toast is another one of my favorites to just keep on hand. And then guacamole and carrots and chips is another one of my favorites. So what about meal prepping? So sometimes I feel like meal prepping gets a little bit of a bad rep because you might feel like you're eating the same thing and you're meal prepping the same thing, but it doesn't have to be boring. So again, looking for those easy and fun recipes that you are looking forward to making and looking forward to trying is really good to make sure your meal prepping is not boring. Another thing I like to do is I like to pick meals that have some of the same ingredients in them for lunches and dinners or lunches and breakfast. So for example, I might make some sort of egg bites for breakfast, but I might be making meatballs for dinner. And so both of those things have eggs in them. And so right there, I'm already kind of cutting down on costs. Or, I might put Parmesan cheese in my lunch and my dinner for whatever recipe I'm making and that sort of thing. And then I also wanted to give you all some examples of some fun, easy, customizable recipes. And I've made both of these and they hold up very well in the fridge for leftovers if you're going to eat throughout the week the same thing. So one of my favorite things to do is to, you've probably seen this on TikTok too. If you are on TikTok, this is kind of a popular thing to do, but having a grain. So I typically will choose either quinoa, rice, or pasta. And then picking a vegetable. So for an example, you could pick grape tomatoes and broccoli, and then adding some sort of a cheese. So you could do feta, that Boursin cheese. And then TJ's or Trader Joe's makes this artichoke dip that would be really good to add in this, and then adding a protein. So typically what I do is I make I put in a large baking dish the vegetables and then the cheese, so the feta or the Boursin or the artichoke dip. And I cook that and let it melt. And I also put the protein in it. So you can go ahead and put that chicken in it and cook that all in one dish, and then cook the grain separately. And then you can add it in and stir it in. And then my other favorite thing to do is sweet potato nachos. So this one is so easy. It tastes so good. It's very customizable. You just cut up the sweet potatoes in kind of like fries, basically, and you can cook that on a baking sheet. You can add cheese, you can add beans, so black beans, kidney beans, chickpeas, whatever that is, and put some cheese over it and bake it in the oven. And then you can cook some ground meat on the stove, and put that all together, add yogurt, add sour cream, avocados, whatever toppings you want. So that's another fun, easy, really good recipe for meal prepping that doesn't have to be boring. And then lastly, I wanted to cover grocery shopping. So grocery shopping, I know, can sometimes be a very anxious thing, especially if you're not used to it, if it's something if you don't like, it can be hard. And it goes into that planning aspect of making sure you are going to the grocery store and planning what you're going to buy and what you're going to eat. So that's why I wanted to cover it in this presentation. But I think it's always important to always go in with a list. So I never go to the grocery store without a list. And it's okay to get things that are not on the list as well, but just make sure you have a list of the bare minimum things that you need to get for your meals. So before I even go to the grocery store, I figure out what meals and what recipes I'm going to be cooking for the week. I figure out how many different dinners I'm making. So whether that's one dinner for the entire week or two different dinners, and I'll eat leftovers. Same with lunch. I'll figure out what lunches I want. So I make that list, or I figure out what meals and recipes I'm making. And then from there, I make a list of ingredients I need from those recipes. And so I start with my list by dividing it into breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, and then extras. And with those recipes, I figure out which ingredients I need for each of those categories. And then I figure out which ingredients I already have in the pantry. And that's kind of how I formulate my grocery list. So I would say my biggest tip for grocery shopping, if you're not comfortable with it, is always go in with a list. But that is all I have. Those are all my tips and tricks for being able to fuel yourself on a busy day.
Okay.